Hello and welcome to this very special edition at NDTV. I'm coming to you from the heart of London, from the British Parliament. With me is Lord Billimoria, Lord Karan Billimoria, Preeti Singh, former journalist and a political commentator, also a former student at LSE, Aishwarya Mishra, who is General Secretary at NISAO, which is a student body organization, students, former LSE students, you're on a gap year, Jago, Praniti Rao, a student at LSE, and Nagashayan, who is an interesting story in himself, a former student who's now landed on a job. Why am I having so many students, and why do I have somebody like Lord Billimoria here on this conversation? As Chancellor of University of Birmingham and as a champion for student rights, international students' rights, it's very, very critical, and NDTV has been highlighting just the impact of the new immigration policy that the UK government has just announced, which has come into effect actually in March 2024. There are multiple rules. In short, making it extremely difficult for Indian students, as one student actually put it, hostile, almost deceptive to the students who've made a decision basis the set of rules that were in place. You will be seeing on your screen all the changes that have been made, but let me start with opening remarks from you, Lord Billimoria. What does it feel like?
For me, as a former international student myself from India, and now the co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on International Students, as well as the president of the UK Council for International Student Affairs, I've been fighting for international students and Indian students in particular for many years. And one of my best achievements in my 18 years in the House of Lords was spearheading and championing with cross-party support the introduction of the 2-year post-graduation work visa, which came into force in 2008. And that's been a huge help. I know if I'd been, as an international student, had the opportunity to work for 2 years after my graduation, to earn some money, to get some work experience, to build the bridges with the UK, it would have been invaluable. And we know how valuable it is to international students. It was taken away in 2012, brought back in 2021.
Yes.
And now we've got a government at the moment that is, quite frankly, got a very, very hostile attitude. It's anti-immigration, it's anti-universities in my view, and it's anti-international students. And the message going out is not good, and we're seeing it in our numbers. All universities have experienced a decline in applications from international students because of this hostile attitude this government is showing. And they've got a net migration figure of almost 700,000. And this is a completely misleading figure, which is scaring the British public. Why? Because the government continues to include international students within the net migration figures. And we're saying to them in Parliament, I've got cross-party support, saying exclude international students. They're not immigrants, they're temporary migrants. And if you present the figures differently, you will not be misleading the public, you will not be scaring the public, and you will not be scaring international students who should want to come and study here. Now, here's the most important point.
Yeah.
This country, in spite of everything, in spite of universities having their funding severely restricted, still produces the best universities in the world, along with America. 4 out of the top 10 are British universities, 17 out of the top 100 in the world, including Birmingham, are British universities. It's something I'm very proud of. So I want the best international students from all over the world, including from India, to come and study in the UK, because you get fantastic education over here, but you've got to make international students feel welcome here, including dependents, by the way.
Yes.
This removal of dependents, I think, yes, some people were probably exploiting the system, but on the whole, we're losing out on very valuable students. For example, the London Business School, of which I'm an alumnus, the Cambridge Judge Business School, which I chaired for 5 years, the Saïd Business School, Oxford, where I'm a fellow, the leading business schools in this country, 20 to 25% of the MBA students bring dependents.
Sure.
And they're not going to come if they can't bring their dependents. So we're going to lose out on some of the brightest, best students from all over the world, including from India. So this is very short-sighted by the government. And they must not remove the 2-year post-graduation work visa, whatever happens.
You spoke of decline, and I'm going to quickly bring some facts in. As of 2023, the highest number of international student visas were given to students from India, which was at 130,000, and that's equivalent to a little more than 130,000. After this announcement, And during the January enrollment, what have you seen? Have you seen a drop?
So when we quote numbers, we forget that India is one of the biggest countries in population. But we also have to understand they have one of the most brilliant minds. So we will expect those brilliant minds to come to this country to get the best of education. So that's why those big numbers. But when you go to the core of it, like those numbers were there. But what we have heard in our reviews and in our surveys, in the January enrollment, we have started seeing a 40% reduction in student enrollment. And it reflects on what Lord Bilimoria said, that it's a reflection on the hostile policy. If you can't bring your family, why would you choose a destination when there are places like Australia and Canada and US which are still welcoming students and their families? So we have to keep up with them. And that's why we have launched our campaign, Fair Visa, Fair Chance. Okay. So it started as Nisau started alongside Lord Bilimoria's support when we wanted to get back the graduate route visa. It went on for 7 years and we had a big success that we got it back in 2021. And we have started it again because we want to make sure that we defend what we have, the good things we have. We want to defend this graduate route. We don't want to go down the hole of like reviewing this only after 3 years of reviewing it. Have we collected enough data? No. Are people getting benefits from our reviews? Yes. So why are we weaponizing these immigration numbers when we are giving benefits to people, but also the students are contributing to the great success? And we have shown these in like all the stories that we have been showing, like how Adar Poonawala, or to start from Lord Bilimoria, like our prime ministers in the past, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and to the recent students, how everybody is a success story. So,
great, thanks Aishwarya for highlighting that, and I trust research students to come up with these questions on whether there was enough evidence to support this policy before it was announced. Preeti, it's election season in India and here in the UK. The question indicating lack of research and perhaps a political motive, one that may backfire.
Yes, I think Radhika, we cannot see this isolated from the political context, like any big policy. But I think we have to understand for both the countries, it's election season. You've got a lot on the table. You've got your trade agreement on the table as well. And while I know the negotiators are downplaying it a little, saying visa is not really a sticky issue, but I think observers have rightly pointed out it is. We've had multiple rounds of talks. And I think because it's election season, neither of the leaders is willing to be seen as ceding any territory on this. So it will remain a sticky issue. I think my bigger problem is with the UK government's approach to this immigration policy. And like Lord Bilimoria pointed out, it seems almost like a pattern. So you bring it in 2004, you scrap it in 2011-12, you reintroduce it in 2019, it's coming to effect 2021. 2 years later, now you have the Home Secretary writing to the Migration Advisory Committee asking for a rapid review. So I think the government sometimes is not looking at the international student or whoever is coming in as more than just an economic number. I think you have to understand that anybody who decides to come here is making a huge decision. There are debts that are taken, there's family that's left behind. It's not a decision in silo. And I think the approach lacks a bit of that humane touch. I understand checks and balances, but I think the lack of a humane approach is my problem with the way the policy is being taken.
Sure. Thank you for pointing that out, because I have with me students who are here to share their stories, their personal stories on what it took for them to take that flight from India to make it to the UK with a bag full of dreams, and of course I presume a bag full of pickle and all favorite foods from India. But and I actually wanted to talk about this in the second half, but I am going to in the second half of the show, but I'm going to bring it up now because Preeti just pointed to something very, very important. The policy researcher there said that often international students here are seen as one who contribute to the economy, but the cultural contribution they make to a city, for example, such as London, and I'm going to go to Jay Go here, who's a student from London who's taken a gap year. Jay Go, how have international students enriched your student life here in London?
I think the cultural appreciation that we get here should not be underestimated. Not only from international students that come over, but also the dependents that they're able to bring with them. And I think here in London we have a massive cultural appreciation and influence from international students. I was able to reap the rewards of that when I visited Kolkata before Christmas. And recently I was talking to my cousins who grew up in Belfast and Dublin, who haven't quite been able to reap the rewards of the same kind of cultural influence that we get here in London. So I think that being able to grow up here, we kind of take it for granted, the cultural appreciation that we're able to get. But I don't think that should be underestimated.
Shouldn't be underestimated. Thanks very much for saying that. I'm going to come back to each of you for your stories, but in one line, quick reaction to this announcement.
I think it's just very deceptive. You come here with one sort of expectation, and then there are policies that are implemented immediately that kind of change the course of action that you have to take. That's the one-liner that I would use to describe that.
Okay, deceptive.
Deceptive, it's also misleading because you come here with an idea to make a difference and do something good for yourself and where you're studying, and then suddenly when there is a sudden barrier placed in front of you, you realize, what am I going to do now? What is my next step? And I would also like to add about why the UK is still such a popular destination, if that is okay, Radhika. Because I'm connecting this to a personal experience. The education that I received here, where I am taught to be uncensored, challenging, and I'm allowed to have this monumental freedom in expressing and critically engage with data and theories, which I was not permitted to do in the past. Kind of connecting this personal story to why it's such a still popular destination for students makes sense, because people come here to avail such chances, and when this chance is taken away from them, it's almost unfair, hostile, and deceptive.
Okay, deceptive. I hear twice. Unfair, hostile, and thank you for raising that point on why, despite the challenges, despite these really hard-sounding immigration rules, the education in UK is so preferred, as pointed by Lord Bilimoria. Your quick reaction.
Actually, I also got the same. Like, it's very unfair. Like whatever it is happening, because international students, as you said, they will be coming with a bag full of dreams and so many things for the opportunity. As a previous speaker said, international students' contribution is more here actually in terms of economy, or in terms of entrepreneurs, or innovations, or so many contributions international students are giving. I feel like it's not fair, like whatever it's happening with the international.
Very interesting mix of students. It just so happens that I have a current student studying here, a former student who's on her post-study work visa, which came with good efforts from Lord Bilimoria, from NISAO, student bodies, and activists. And I have a student who's actually a success story. Although, Nagashen, you called it unfair, which it is, I agree, you've landed a job and someone has sponsored you. Tell us about your experience, and do you feel you got lucky?
Yeah, actually, I studied MSc in Computer Science in Queen Mary University of London. During that time, I started from India. I was keen interest in doing volunteering surveys for the charities and all. I just involved doing some volunteering work in London for some charity. We started doing some student activities. Actually, we deal with the students and student hotpot or something like these kind of things we started doing.
Which incidentally is also supporting students, international students living here.
Yeah, incidentally it's supporting international, not only international students, home students. It's a university students. It's concentrated. I just fall in love with the work that I used to do. After completing my MSc in computer science, people may say that I diverted my interest from the computer science to the charity. I thought I can implement all whatever that I learned, the technology, the technical skills and all, to the charity as well. And
use it for good.
Use it for good.
And you got sponsored, which is amazing, which is absolutely amazing. And in a country such as the UK, transitions such as this from one particular specialization to the other is just so natural and so accepted. What's your experience been, Tejaswini?
So I'm a former student at LSE, and right now I'm working on my PSW with a policy think tank based in London. I think it just so happened that I got very lucky. I think luck is the key word here. I know a lot of my fellow batchmates who are still struggling to find jobs in the current market, and the visa restrictions and the minimum salary threshold is not making it any easier for any of us. But I did form a student society on my LSE campus, which kind of was the pathway to me landing my current job. It's been really good. The experience is great. The networking is great. But the chances of me staying back and getting sponsored for a work visa seem pretty bleak still.
What would option B be then, briefly?
Probably to go back home. It doesn't make sense for me to stay back here because the cost of living just keeps going up.
Yes.
And if I'm not getting sponsored with my visa, I don't think I would be willing to stay back.
Praniti, you're a student here at LSE at the moment studying economics?
I'm currently studying developmental
Studies. Is India a lesser option considering it's looking more likely for students such as yourself who spend lakhs and lakhs of rupees to be here, live here, which is not easy? Why is the UK still such an exciting educational hub? And what is plan B if plan A doesn't work?
I do not for one second perceive India to be as a lesser option for me. If anything, I am glad I took this opportunity and was able to avail an education in the UK, because studying here has changed my worldview, not only of the subject, but of the concept of education and what it constitutes by itself. And I believe after gaining such perspective, I'm at currently a crossroad because I'm faced with two chances, either to continue here or go back. And while I believe I would love to work in an environment that has offered me so much here in the UK, working in India after gaining such a perspective will also empower me in ways that I could not, that I probably would not have received after studying here. And I believe this is why it is such a popular destination for international students. The democracy in education and the holistic nature of this education is something you will not find to the degree at which you're able to get it here. And adding on to what Tejaswini said about how the chances are bleak currently, when I look at Nagashayan, I do believe that
There is hope.
There is hope, and you just need a bit of luck.
There is hope and you need a lot of luck, but no regret. Is that one word?
No regret.
No
at
regrets.
all. No regret. I feel wronged, but never an ounce of regret.
Thank you for saying that. Feeling wronged, but no regret. Karan, did you feel like that when you were a student here? And I mean, of course, your interesting connections with India and here is there, but being a student here, has that changed you as a person?
Well, the best definition of luck is when determination meets opportunity. And we've got some very determined people here, and there are plenty of opportunities. And the best thing about a British education is it is so valuable globally. So it's going to be valuable going back home to India, and the benefits that you coming here, studying, widening your horizons, the connections you make, the friends you make, generation-long friends. My mother went to university here. She's 87 years old, and her best friends are her friends from Birmingham University going back. It's wonderful. She speaks to them on the phone. It's just these connections. There are more world leaders who've been educated in the UK, 25%, USA, 25%, and all the other countries in the world, the other 50%. I mean, that's how powerful it is over here. And it's very valuable, and I think the opportunities are here.
Yeah.
You can stay on and work if you can get sponsored, but if you don't, there are opportunities all over the world and back in India.
Yeah.
And you can never lose out from the best education in the world you get over here.
Yes, but
Which I always value.
but hopefully the government is just a bit more nice about it.
Oh, they should be.
Preeti, your comments on this political nature that there is.
If we know that the India side is bargaining very hard on the FTA, and which is why after multiple rounds of negotiation, things haven't progressed. Do you think this is something that the India can use as a bargaining tool to say, take more of our students, they can contribute to your economy, and we can get the FTA moving forward?
Yes, Radhika, I think the conversation is there. That's the push, as I understand, which is access to the UK labour market. So I think, it's a bit of when the UK government welcomes international students, welcomes the thousands of pounds that international students bring in, but then limits access to the labour market. I think it's a bit of you can't have the cake and eat it too. Yeah. So you do need to understand that you are bringing in a lot of hurdles that the students need to come in. For example, just taking it a little personal, I came in to study here, pursue a master's at the London School of Economics after 8 years of working in India. So there are many mid-career people who come in. And the moment you say that you can't bring in your dependents, makes it very difficult to take that decision of pursuing high quality education abroad. Add in the layer of being a woman makes it tougher, because then
what about the single mothers who want to study and pursue career?
Exactly. So you may have children, you may have partners, you may be a single parent, and the moment you're not allowed to bring in your dependents unless you're pursuing a research course or are on a fully government funded scholarship, I think that you are almost dropping the women off that opportunity. And like Lord Billimore said, determination needs to meet opportunity. And this policy is taking away the opportunity bit. So there's determination, but we need the governments to give us more opportunity.
Sure, great. How are you going to take this forward with the campaign that you're ongoing? What's tomorrow going to look like? Is it looking positive? What are you going to commission to take NISAO's work to the government and see a change again in the policy?
So being in NISAO and being an international student, tomorrow is always positive, and we'll make sure it is positive. So what we are trying to do here is we were recently called to give evidence in Migrant Advisory Committee. So we have made sure we have made the case really clear. Like, the review needs to be done, but in the future, not now. But also we provide them with evidence of the success stories, not just in numbers, because international students are sometimes lost in numbers, but in terms of faces, how they contribute. But to also, as graduate route is often sold as, oh, people are going to start working here. It's not just about that. It's about making people who you teach world-class workers. Because if you give them experience of working a bit, so they will be here for 2 years, 3 years, depending on how long the graduate route is. But after that, they are going to leave. They are going to find better jobs. It helps them to pay all those loans and fees that they paid. It helps them pay that back. But at the same time, in those 2 years, you are paying the graduate route fees. You are paying the NHS health surcharge. You are paying tax and any kind of insurance on whatever salaries you earn. So you are contributing to the economy as well. So we want to make sure we highlight the positives, but not just in numbers, because we talked about humanizing Indian students. So we want to make sure we keep on bringing up those stories again and again. And that's what we are trying to do.
Great.
So we hope the future is bright.
Great, great. Thank you. All great points. And it's not just the numbers, as has been echoed here by all these fantastic speakers. It's about the stories that attach themselves to the evolution, to the contributions that are made both to this country as well as to the different countries that students come from, especially a dynamic nation such as India, when students go back with a bag full of experience, a degree in hand, which empowers them to make those enriching and very, very tangible, holistic decisions in their workplace.